October 29th, a Tuesday, week 8 of this NFL regular season. Sarah wrapped up last night in Pittsburgh. We'll talk about it on the back end of this live stream and plenty more. Welcome inside the vault for a Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. I'm Bobby Trossett, as always, joined alongside Sarah Ellison. Two former NFL quarterbacks, Kurt Benkert and Dan Orlovsky, took the Ravens defense to task a little bit in breakdowns. One called Zach Orr's group and explicitly called him out by name and referred to his group as predictable, or at least towards the end of Sunday's game in Cleveland. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. We'll have some press conference takeaways from Monday, what John Harbaugh had to say, including every single answer to Marcus Williams-based questions, and I'm sure plenty more. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I feel like we're off to a great morning. It's a nice sunshiny fall day. But Bobby, yeah, we're going to take a look at scheme today. And I don't want this to be misconstrued as like, Orr versus the players who's more at fault. We, on Sunday, went in depth about all the missed interceptions. We've talked about the players. We've talked about what they need to do to pick things up. So today it's a little bit more focused on scheme since we've already looked at the players, but this is not there's nobody that doesn't need to up their game just because we're focusing on scheme today.
Yeah, we've talked about a lot of non-scheme things aside from just those missed opportunities. We've talked about the injuries in the secondary. We've talked about the injuries that developed quickly in the middle of that first half when it came to the interior part of their defensive line, which
not to mention the injuries going in.
Injuries going in the secondary, injuries that developed in game with Brent Urban and Michael Pierce. We'll see the significance of those. We've talked about the Murderers Row schedule. We've talked about the youthfulness and the learning curve that Zach Orr, as a first-year defensive coordinator, 32 years young, has had in front of him. Like, we've talked about a lot of those things. But to your point, maybe we haven't done a full deep dive into the scheme with which they're calling plays with, and a lot of it is similar to what Mike Macdonald was doing last year, and perhaps that's part of the significance of what's gone wrong here from a complexity standpoint. So I thought Kurt, I've watched both of these. I know you have as well. You found it. It's made its way through Twitter, and obviously there's been a lot of discourse and dialogue surrounding Zach Orr's unit. So let's dive right in.
Yeah, so as we know, I mean, I retweeted this. Kurt Benkert, he was a quarterback for several teams, but he did. You kind of mentioned this on the fly yesterday. He did this all 22 breakdown of Jameis Winston. That's what it was supposed to be, and it's about 30 minutes long. But instead of coming away with takeaways on Jameis, which he did have a few, if you watch the full YouTube, I mean, he can't stop watching the Ravens defense in this scheme because he's like, they're just making it too easy. And so he tweeted yesterday, he said his number one takeaway is that the Ravens defense schematically is so unsound. And you're going to hear the word unsound. I broke his 30 minutes into a three-minute clip. It's going to sound like a broken record. But I guess that's kind of the point, that he's not looking to break down the Ravens defense, but then every time he goes and looks at a different play, that's what keeps coming up. So he calls it unsound. And he says there's no way they're going to win the Super Bowl if they stay in the scheme that they're running. And so what you're going to find in here is the theme. Why is their scheme not working? Well, what he's saying is that they're trying to disguise everything. And that it has been a big part of the Ravens defense for years. This isn't new under Zach Orr. I mean, certainly Mike Macdonald was the same way. You're constantly trying to disguise. And there's wisdom to that, of course, where you're going against some of the top quarterbacks in the league. If you telegraph what you're doing, then it makes it easy on him. The only problem is they're just not running it well, which is why we are constantly seeing wide open receivers for the opponents all over the field. So I obviously, if you want to go watch the whole thing, go to Kurt's YouTube page. I linked to it in my Twitter.
It's actually on the Sleeper channel. He did it through one of his sponsors.
Oh, okay. On the Sleeper
channel. I went to his channel. Yeah, it's funny that you say that. I went to his channel to try and find it after you tweeted it. And I know you had the link underneath it, like you just said, but yeah. I was just, whatever. I was outside of Twitter. And I was like, where is this thing? And so sure enough, it's on the Sleeper YouTube channel. So go check it out. And to your point, it goes from a Jameis Winston all 22 breakdown to the title should be different, right? He should have a different thumbnail, a different title and everything, because while he spent time on what Jameis was doing right, he ended up sort of skirting away on tangents because of what the Ravens defense was doing wrong.
Right. So here it is. I had to use screen grabs for copyright purposes, but I think you're still gonna. I try to use screen grabs so you can still follow it quite well. So we're gonna watch the whole 3 minutes. I may pause it a couple times to make comments. Feel free to do the same, Bobby. But here we go.
It's kind of the Ravens defense's problem sometimes. They disguise, they do a bunch of this and that, and then they're out of position. Are we going to be blitzing off the slot? What's the deal? He's probably not. And they're going to come down and play a hook zone, hook cover 3. So this is like this Ravens defense, that's what they like to do. Like to show the same thing pre-snap every play, then adjust, rotate, this, that. But it leaves guys out of position. And you get easy completions. And those easy completions right now, it adds up. You want to pre-snap a line, cover 2 on 2nd and 12. This is why you lose games, Ravens defense. This is why you lose games, because you're not fooling anybody. You're just out of position. Because this guy's got to cover this guy on this side of the field. It's just, or he needs to attach. I mean, you're playing with shit. You're playing with bad leverage. What are we doing? I don't even know if they know. It's like they've got some man elements and they got some zone elements. But when you play man coverage with bad leverage, because you're trying to show that it's zone pre-snap, this is the that happens. This is the type of defense that doesn't get you to a Super Bowl. Ravens defense is not sound. They've got good players, but they're not sound. Like, this is the talking about. They're so unsound. This is the number one problem with the Ravens defense. They are unsound because they try to disguise everything pre-snap. Now look, they're going to blitz over here. They're going to bring 5. If you hold your pre-snap alignment on defense and you have a running back to the flat and you're not going to peel your D end, who has to stop him from getting to the flat? This guy. Or you bring the safety down this guy, depending on how you're rotating. They disguise so much that they're always out of alignment. Stupid. This Ravens defense should be better than what they are. Out of alignment. You got a free flat over here. You got a free slant right here. I mean, this is the Ravens defense in a nutshell right now. They're confused, madness, pre-snap disguising, out of alignment, 3rd and critical, and everybody on the field is open. Now we got play action on 1st down. They got the ball back in the flat, unsound. Like, give him 7 free yards on 1st down, because you're just not covering people. You're not even making it competitive. The Ravens defense is going to be what holds them back from going to a Super Bowl. I know Roquan Smith is really good in the run game. He is really bad in the pass game. Really bad. And it's not that he's not a good athlete. It's just like, it's not even contested. Oh, wait, the Browns know, holy shit, someone's open every play. Let's just drop back, hold on to it. And oh my God, what do you know? Unsound defense. Let's watch that route. I'm sorry. His leverage is cheeks. If he wanted to do that and run a corner, he would have beat him on 4 different routes. That's no man's land. He's trying to guess. And he's got him. And you give Jameis another chance to beat him over the top. And that's the end of the game. The Ravens defense has some serious question marks. And it's not even so much talent, it's scheme. Their scheme is not good. It's not sound. It's leaving guys wide open all over the field.
All right, so there we go, Bobby. After you watched it, what was kind of your most immediate takeaways?
That they might need to simplify some things here in the early going for what Mike McDonald had installed last year, and that they did obviously at a historic level with the Triple Crown, leading the league in takeaways, sacks, and points allowed. It's a different group. We've talked about the staff changes. We've talked about the personnel changes player-wise. But clearly, I think they're asking too much of this defense right now when it comes to what Kurt is getting at here. The disguise, the simulated pressure packages, the ways in which you're trying to fool. You're throwing the kitchen sink at Jameis, right?
Right.
And I don't know if you needed to do that on Sunday. This is his first start as a Brown. This is somebody who plays recklessly. That has been a knock of his over the years. And he did at times on Sunday play recklessly. I don't know if why complicate things if you don't feel like your personnel can answer to the tall tasks of which you're requiring them. And so the biggest takeaway of mine watching Kurt's breakdown is, can we simplify things moving forward and then start to add on some of the disguise, some of the complexities when you're, one, at full strength, talent-wise and availability-wise, and two, as you start to stack some games. Because right now, defensively, they're in shambles.
Yeah. So if you watch the whole thing, and I wasn't able to put it and represent this part, but what was interesting is obviously the whole point of deception, right? The disguises is so that the quarterback doesn't know where you're going to be. What was interesting is here's Kurt watching this film. And as you watch him as the game progresses, he's actually starting to be able to predict where they're going to be, even though they're disguised. And he did it because he's like, well, fine, you're not tipping your hand of whether it's zone or man, but what you are doing is he's like, you can start reading where the space is. So he's like, I know somebody's got to come into this space right here, which means this space is going to be open. So time and time again, he's like, watch this. I bet this guy's coming here. Watch this. I bet this guy's coming here. So at the end of the day, they weren't fooling anybody with the disguises because so if somebody like Kurt in one film session can figure out where you're going to be anyway, then certainly somebody like Jameis with a bunch of coaches around him that are watching Ravens tape through 7 weeks of the game going into that 8th week, then they're able to kind of like use those keys also. So the disguises weren't hiding where they were going to be anyway. And there was that one line that cracked me up. He's like, I don't even know what they're doing right here. He's like, I don't even know if they know. You know?
Yeah. And compounding all of that is the fact that Jameis had the time to go through, he complimented his ability to read the defense, his processing ability. Well, no Jack, right? The guy had all kinds of time to process. From progression one, to go through all of his progressions, read 1, read 2, read 3. It's like, dude, that's where it starts. You made Jameis look like he's an everyday player.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been. Now he gave him a spark and he did enough to win. But obviously, he also did enough to lose that game had the Ravens taken advantage of those opportunities. So, Jameis had all day in the pocket, and that further compounded, of course, everything that we're talking about.
And that's the part where the players come in too, right? Where it's like, guys, you got to be able to generate some pressure. Like nobody's doing that. And I will say, like, it's not like the disguise never worked. I remember tweeting live that on the sack strip where Kyle Hamilton was lined up, like there was no way that you would have known that he was going to come and blitz Jameis Winston.
Unblocked.
So
free
it was just
window.
Completely like that. And that sack strip was huge, obviously, in the first half. So again, you don't want to get rid of it completely, but something's not clicking because how many times do we see on there wide open wide receivers? And it's not just like, oh, there's the one guy that's open on this play. Like there were so many times where it's like 1, 2, 3, open, 1, 2, open. And if they happen to be like needing to go big, here's 1, 2, 3, 4 open, just like all the time. And then I did want to slip in there some talent stuff, which isn't only scheme, but he did call out Roquan Smith. And that was a terrible rep. I mean, I don't even it was right in front of Roquan and he was just so delayed in going over to picking up his man there. And again, I was trying to get it under 3 minutes, but he was like, man, if I'm doing fantasy, I'm taking tight ends against Roquan every day, And then the last thing with Eddie Jackson, of course, he was in cover 0 and some people feel like he shouldn't have been in cover 0, but he did point out he used very choice words to describe Eddie Jackson's technique and how he was already overplaying on the inside because he had gotten burnt there the play before. So because of that, that's seared in his memory. So now he's playing as if that route's going to be there again. And so he just got easily beat for the game-winning touchdown as it turned out. So it's interesting, Bobby, because yesterday, John Harbaugh was asked about this very thing. Jonas Schaefer asked him, he said, you guys are still near the top of the league in disguising your coverage before the snap. Has there been a learning curve at all with the players or with the coaches in getting all that executed well? And Harbaugh says, yes. Yes. I mean, sure, absolutely. It's part of it. How many top quarterbacks have we played and top passing games have we played? You can't just really line up against these guys too often and just show them what you're in. We've been a big disguised team. So again, I want to make clear, disguising is not new to Zach Orr. I mean, Mike McDonald was at all. That was retained. It was retained, and I'm sure it lives with Harbaugh because remember, it was Wink Martindale that pointed this out to us when we were like digitally golfing with him, right? Like he's like, think of the thread of how it doesn't matter what coordinators come in, the Ravens have always had a top defense in the John Harbaugh era.
Yeah.
And it's like coordinator after coordinator. And this is one of the staples that has been around for multiple coordinators. But I just feel like Mike McDonald was one of the best at it.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying to get rid of it. And I don't think you are either. You were saying maybe simplify it and then line upon line, precept upon precept, try to like add it in. So you're figuring it out. So anyway, he says, we've been a big disguise team. We've been a big simulated pressure team. We've blitzed from both sides. We've shown blitzes one way and blitzed the other way and run off of it. We try to keep it moving and we try to keep people guessing. It's a big part of our defense, and the execution part of it, for the most part, has been good. Not in that game, but there have been plenty of times where it hasn't been good. Do I think it's part of the learning curve? Yes, I do think it's part of the learning curve, and I do believe the curve is going to keep getting better as we go forward. Bobby, it has to.
He was receptive to that question.
He was very receptive.
Answer right there.
I think Jonas, because the coaches aren't going to come forward and say, here's exactly what's going wrong.
Yeah.
But he gave a very substantive answer, and I think Jonas was onto something. And he was at least straight up and honest with that one for sure. Jonas saw it, Kurt saw it, John Harbaugh's fessing up to it.
And you kind of have to, because the numbers never lie.
Right.
And this NFL Live graphic is undeniable. The Ravens defense ranks last in the following categories: passing yards per game, allowing over 290. They're tied for last in passing touchdowns allowed with 17. And they're dead last as well in 15 air yard completions allowed with 40. That's 7 more than the next closest team. And of course, it's a Cleveland team that came in having not yet put up until Sunday 20 points. So this is a brutal graphic.
It's brutal.
Make no mistake about it. This is a brutal graphic.
And I'll add one onto it, Bobby.
Yeah.
They're last in points allowed in the fourth quarter.
Last in points allowed in the fourth quarter, which makes complete sense.
Yeah. It's the worst. And I'm seeing in the live chat, and I think it's a good question. I don't know that I fully have the answer. So some people are saying, okay, so if we've always used disguises, what is there to relearn? And I don't know that I have the full answer to that, but my initial reaction is that there's got to be rules for disguising and rotating to who's got who. And I think that's part of their pre-snap communication, because they're lined up to fool the offense, but then they also have to communicate and say, okay, well, when we get out of this, I've got this person, I've got that person, you've got this one, you've got that one. And there's got to be rules on how they rotate out of things. And my guess is how you communicate those rules and you implement those rules, which is Zach Orr in part, you know what I mean? Not in part, like big time Zach Orr. How you rotate out of that and pick up your man right before the snap or as it snapped, it clearly is not a smooth process the way we saw it last year or in other times that we've done it. And so that's great. There's a learning curve. So there's a reason behind it. We're getting some clarity, but how long is this learning curve going to take? Like, how quickly are we going to get this? Because we cannot keep having receivers wide open all over the field all game long.
Time's ticking, and the Steelers, as we'll talk about in a little bit, took over, at least for the time being, the AFC North with last night's win at home against the New York Giants. Thank you guys for being here today. We're coming up on 2,000 concurrents, so please, on your way in, if you're watching on YouTube and if you're on Twitter, we'd love for you to come on over to the YouTube space. Go check us out. It's The Vault. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when we're dropping our daily live content. A couple super chats before we continue the conversation. Julian says, hey, Bobby, tell Sarah I'm not trying to take her job. Scout's honor. Quick little inside. I gotta let you know about an inside joke. So the other night when I was doing the post live stream that I do on my personal channel after you and I wrap up on Sundays, I had a computer reboot happen.
Oh, you still haven't gotten that off of Sundays?
I know. I'm trying to figure it out with IT people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so whatever, I haven't gotten around to fully resolving it yet. And so Julian and Manuel, two subscribers of ours who hang out on my channel as well, they co-hosted for me while I dropped out. They took over the channel. So anyway.
Hey, Julian, here's the thing. They said this a lot at the Ravens. no, there's nobody that's irreplaceable. Nobody. And so you always got to be at the top of your game. So if I don't bring it, this is competition. If Julian wants it, the competition's on. Let's go. This is good. Competition makes us better.
Tell you what, that belief that you just mentioned too, that in broadcasting, just in general, in sports, I feel like that is such a relevant
because everybody
thing.
wants those jobs.
Oh,
everybody wants those jobs, and they're coming for it. So you got to stay sharp.
No doubt. Rave Kingdom says, I'm telling you, it was Zach Orr the whole time. Tom says these losses fall squarely on the shoulders of John Harbaugh. In his arrogance, he will change nothing. John Harbaugh does not put this team in a position to win. That is his primary job. What is Bisciotti thinking? Ian says, or having guys disguising the disguises so much the defense is unrecognizable.
To everybody, including them.
Here's one of your phrases. Look ugly in the eye, Sarah, even if it looks like Sloth from the Goonies.
Gotta look ugly in the eye. You're bigger than ugly. You're better than ugly. Fix it.
Gabe says Devin Leary must be cooking as scout team quarterback. LMAO. Oh, Diesel Doctor says, I missed a few live streams this week. Part of me wants to point out that McDonald also took time to get his scheme set, but I don't recall seeing us this bad ever. Maybe this is just flesh in my mind, but we need to fix this. It was pretty bad there in the early going and in the opening part of 2022. But
I can't remember what podcast I was listening to. Somebody had brought up that Mike McDonald it was like week 14, something crazy where they had like a 400-yard game in his first year. So to Diesel Doctor's point, it may not. We're remembering last year Mike McDonald, but I don't remember under Mike McDonald being number 32. I just don't think that happened. So
we'll have to go back and
I'm sure we're forgetting some of the growing pains, but I also don't think that they were 32.
Hard to forget that Miami game, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Asmodeus says, and by the way, Diesel with an orange. Thank you, Diesel.
Yes,
Appreciate
thank you, Diesel.
Asmodeus says we need a premier pass rusher. Crosby, Garrett, etc. We also need to go back to fundamental football. I was seeing many players jumping 3 to 4 feet in the air from the hard count, giving away the blitz. Evan says, I think a lot of frustration stemmed from the fact that we don't have time to wait for these improvements to come. This team has a window to win a Super Bowl. Hiring a project of a defensive coordinator was not the move. Captain Hard says
Mike McDonald was a project too.
He was,
quote unquote project.
He had one more year under his belt, at least at the college ranks as a DC, but at the NFL level, certainly. And it was he was definitely a coach a lot longer in the system than Zach was, even though Zach's been in the building for as long as we can remember as a player.
Yeah.
Mike had more experience, so to speak, as a coach. Captain Hard says, if we have always disguised defenses, then this points to one person, Zach Orr. We can't hold hands if he can't get the job done. Promote someone else. It can't get any worse. We're last in everything, which is not true. They're last in a few categories.
But they could be last by a wider margin, so it could get worse. Yeah.
And Nick says, like the video, but I think Dio is okay. Just less moving parts, simpler calls or something. Appreciate you guys. 10 super chats so far, and we're 25 minutes in.
By the way, Diesel Doctor, did you get is your t-shirt in yet? Your Angry Runs t-shirt. I'm curious. Let us know.
Spoiler alert, tomorrow we'll have our second episode and our second giveaway opportunity
and we found a way to randomize it.
We did. You did.
Yes.
You did.
Hopefully it works well.
Looking forward to adding that in. And then we got one more as well. Nikita says, go get Robert Saleh on the staff. Of course, Robert was just a few weeks ago fired as the head coach of the New York Jets. And guess what? It fixed absolutely nothing with the Jets. Nothing. All right. Shall we get to Orlovsky's thoughts?
Yeah, let's do it. A little bit more on scheme, and then we'll move on to others to presser news.
Definitely. So one formal. By the way, Kurt Benkert's from Baltimore, originally from Baltimore. Shout out, Kurt.
Nice.
And then Dan Orlovsky, of course, had quite a long stint as a backup quarterback for the most part in the league as well, and now he's on ESPN. And he talked a little bit about, so Kurt was schemed just generally speaking all 22, right? Dan took a look at the Ravens' final offensive drive, the Ravens' final defensive drive in what became the game-winning drive for Jameis Winston and the Browns. So here's Orlovsky.
I don't trust Baltimore's defense. I think you got to pin part of that loss late on their defensive coordinator, Zach Orr. RC, you hit it to a T, and you check me if you think I'm wrong here. I think their defense got predictable. Buck 26, 1st and 10. You're going to get all-out blitz, meaning cover zero, so they're going to blitz everybody defensively, and they're going to play man coverage across the board. You're trying to keep them out of the end zone, not right or out of field goal range. Okay, so easy completion. Very next play, 2nd and 3. All-out pressure. Everybody's going to play man coverage across the board. Offensively, I start to get a tell. Okay, what are you doing? So, all right, we waste the football. All right, not a good play for us offensively. Very next play, all-out pressure. Everybody at the line of scrimmage going to blitz. What's the tell here? Now, as an offensive coordinator, Ken Dorsey, you're starting to anticipate, almost not guess, but predict what the defense is going to do. Elijah Moore, just a quick little out route, because I know what defense you're in. I'm calling easy plays versus what you're going to do. Very next play, all-out pressure. 1st and 15 after the penalty. Pre-snap, everybody's going to blitz off the ball or at the line of scrimmage. You're going to play man coverage across the board. We're going to block it up. 1st and 15. Ball comes out. Great. Jameis misses it, or Kyle Hamilton drops it. Guys, the very next play, you run all-out pressure again. Everybody's going to blitz. So what do? Cleveland and Ken Dorsey, they're going to block it up. They're going to protect because you're predictable now, and then we take our shot down the field. I just think, as an offensive perspective, you run an all-out pressure 6 times in a row, at some point, you become very predictable, and I bank on you doing that, and I think that puts your defense at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
So that final drive included, as you heard from Orlovsky there, 6 all-out pressures in a row. So if you're Ken Dorsey, who took over play calling duties that game for Kevin Stefanski, you're starting to see some tells. You're starting to pick up on some predictability behavior on the other side, and they were able to cash in. Now, of course, Kyle Hamilton couldn't cash in, and we wouldn't magnify this as much probably. I'm sure we would have talked about it, but it wouldn't have been magnified the way it has been had Kyle reeled that ball in, as you would think would do 99 times out of 100. But that was some predictability, Sarah, down the stretch there.
Just for sure. I'm just wondering, and maybe because we haven't heard the predictability thing through 7 weeks, and maybe it's just because the Ravens have been winning, and so as you said, we haven't been. It's kind of been masking the defensive issues. There hasn't been as much of an emphasis on looking at the defense. But I'm wondering if the idea was Jameis Winston is erratic, and if we just keep pressuring him, at some point he'll throw a bad ball, which he did.
And he did.
Which he did.
He did.
Kyle Hamilton had it twice in his grasp and let it go. And so I kind of wonder if, like, again, you drop the official number, according to PFF, by the way, is 3 dropped interceptions. I know some people argue that there's a 4th, but PFF says it's 3. I saw 3. Some people are saying there was a 4th, but let's say we take
what the total number is on the year.
Oh crap! What is it?
8.
Oh,
the next closest team. All right, no other team has more than 5. The Ravens have 8 and 3. Look, I thought that 3 number was a little generous. I don't know how they measure those, but it was either 3 or 4.
Yeah. So anyway, so I don't know. Has he been predictable in the past? Nobody has made that claim. I haven't seen any film study on that. Was this specific for Jameis Winston? But we've got 8 weeks of football left, so we're going to find out if it's something that he continues to do, because you surely don't want to do that against a different type of quarterback. And so, as we just wrap this whole thing up, Bobby, I just want to reiterate once again, I am not on the everything's all the players' fault, and I'm not on the everything is Zach Orr's fault. When you are dead last in all these categories, it's a group effort. And so clearly Zach Orr has to figure stuff out with his scheme and communicating his scheme and making sure that his players know when and where to be, and to simplify it in some way so that they can figure out, because all these open wide receivers aren't going to get it done. Roquan Smith needs to pick up his coverage game, Eddie Jackson might need to head back to the bench. Everybody needs to get on the jugs machine. Eric DaCosta in the front office needs to make a trade.
Yeah.
John Harbaugh needs to be a leader and get behind Zach Orr because this was his choice. And so he's got to put all of his efforts behind Zach Orr and focus on that.
They need to stop dropping the football on third down on offense.
Correct. Like, yes, please catch the ball from Lamar Jackson when he throws you a 50-yarder that's going to get you perhaps in a game-winning drive.
Yeah.
It's all of it. It's absolutely all of it. But for sure, the spotlight is on Zach Orr because he's the new defensive coordinator, and he's got to get this right. But boy, you guys better start catching these interceptions to help your defensive coordinator out. It's going to be a complete group effort.
It's loud right now, and it got, I guess, slightly loud during Monday's press conference. Not that much. I thought actually Harbaugh seemed to be in a relatively open mood, like kind of we referred to his receptiveness earlier on in the show. We're going to get to some more takeaways from yesterday. More super chats are flying in. Lenny says, is Marvin Lewis available to consult? How many more voices do we want as a mentor, right? You've already got Dean Pease in the building. Captain Hard says, yeah, he's got to go 6 times, meaning referring to the Zach Orr all-out call 6 straight times. Asmodeus says, I think it's an execution problem. Giving the quarterback 4 to 5 seconds puts pressure on DBs. It's harder to nab interceptions if you try to cover your guy for an eternity. And I think we are fully caught up to speed. So let's get to some more takeaways, Tara.
I just want to say this, my prediction,
yesterday.
the Ravens already made their bring in outside help move. It was Dean Pease. I don't think they're going to bring in somebody else from outside.
Yeah.
Unless Zach Orr just completely implodes. I think this is what we're moving forward with. I think and some people might argue he's already imploding, but maybe implodes to another level. I think the Ravens have made their outside coaches move, and that's Dean Pease.
Well, an inside coach's move that they made was benching Marcus Williams, who was a healthy scratch, of course, on Sunday. This is their 5-year, $70 million man from 2022. He is still under contract for the next couple of years, and he is the 3rd highest cap hit for the 2024 season. What I've done is I went ahead and compiled every single answer that John Harbaugh gave to a Marcus Williams-based question yesterday. To say he expanded would be inaccurate, but he did address a couple different things and also wouldn't go as far as to actually specify what led to the decision. But reporters, they gave it their best shot. Listen to this.
After the game, and Marcus Williams would go on to play great football the rest of the year. Do you anticipate what happened yesterday being a one-game thing, and do you expect him to play against Denver on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to probably try to get into too much about who's going to play and who's not going to play in the game, but I'll just reiterate what I said before. Marcus is a heck of a player. I have the utmost confidence in him as a player, as a person, as a pro. He's a great person. He's a hard worker, plays hard, practices hard, does everything at the highest level. And I anticipate him playing great football for us, all season and very soon.
Is there any thought to him not being active yesterday?
Yeah, I think we don't ever really probably get into too much of the thought process and that kind of stuff. It goes the way it goes. We make the decisions that we make based on the best judgment we can make, try to do our best to try to do what we can.
John, I just want to clarify something on Marcus Williams. You said yesterday it was a personnel decision, but you also said it was an internal type of situation. I want to make sure,
I don't really think I have anything else to say about that. It's what we do. There's a lot of things going on all the time, and a lot of it's kind of our business. It kind of belongs in house. It's between us, and it's not something that we need to tell everybody everything about.
So interesting there. I think something cut off. I went back to look at it multiple times. Something happened with the press conference feed there. So don't actually know what he went on to say, but clearly was not willing to go down that path with Jeff.
It's in transcripts. He's kind of just repeating himself. There's nothing, extra there.
That's what I figured. So those are 3 questions, 3 answers to what's going on. I mean, somewhat answers. There's not a whole lot of clarity in terms of obviously what took place. And Jeff tried to follow up, Sarah, on what really there's just been a lot of speculation on in terms of the internal type situation, which was what that was referred to as Sunday night in his post-game press conference. But this is going to be kept in-house, and so here we are.
And listen, Bobby, everybody's doing their jobs. I love that the reporters asked several times and try to get to it. So I love that they did that. But to be honest with you, Harbs was correct in not telling us, because remember what he did to Ben Cleveland?
Yeah.
He had gotten so many Ben Cleveland questions that finally one day he's like, listen, let's just be honest here. Ben Cleveland was outplayed. He knows what he needs to, and he went on kind of like, he's told us why he did it.
Yeah.
And when you're Ben Cleveland and you're sitting in the locker room and all of a sudden social media, you might be blowing up and it's like, dang, my coach just like cooked me, you know?
Yeah. And
so,
then what's happened since? He's looked for opportunities
right.
to mention out of nowhere, unprompted, Ben, as if to say
Right,
like, "Ooh,
right.
I shouldn't have gone as hard on him that day."
Right. So, I mean, for sure, Harbaugh needs to. However, it's funny because when he originally answered it, he was like calm and cool. But then when they kept asking, that's when he pushed back and seemed to not,
Yeah.
had a little bit of body language there. But so I don't know. I mean, listen, the stats and the film show us why he's benched. Is there something extra going on? I don't know. And the reason why Jeff is asking that is because of the way he said it. That's an internal type situation. So that's what's making us wonder, is there something more than what we're seeing in the stats and on tape? Because he was not playing well. He hasn't been playing well. I mean, people were cooking him the way they're cooking Eddie Jackson this week.
Yep.
So there is all of that. But yeah, Harbs definitely was like, okay, I'm done being asked about this. Like, I'm just going to let you know, this is in-house. This is none of your business.
Question becomes, how much will this remain an in-house thing? Meaning, how long will Marcus Williams be down? And what would have happened had he been in there? Would those balls have been his? Would he have taken those interceptions?
Here's the thing. He's never been in position for those before, by the way. So we can cook Eddie Jackson for missing them, but I don't even remember Marcus Williams being in position. He's always been out of position. So I don't know. But will he play on Sunday? Based off of the way Harbaugh said this, I think he will. At the end, he's like, I'm not going to let you know. But then at the end, he goes, I anticipate him playing great football for all season and very soon. Okay,
man.
so Eddie Jackson was not the answer. I think Marcus Williams will be back out there.
And they willingly made that decision knowing that Wiggins and Marlin in the secondary were unavailable. I know they're not safeties.
Well,
but they were depleted.
No, because he also answered a question about Wiggins, and he said it was because of his illness that he didn't play. And he made it sound like
travel.
He didn't travel and didn't play.
Right.
And so he was saying, the illness was definitely why he didn't travel, but it sounded like he could be back very soon. So I'm not sure that they didn't know that Wiggins was going to play, although I bet they did have an idea on Marlin.
Sure.
Yeah.
Who didn't practice
Yeah.
all week long. Some other takeaways from yesterday's press conference. Harbs was asked about the defensive communication breakdowns. You see the screenshot on the screen that Sarah has here, just a lot of confusion pre-snap. And Harbs said, I watch a lot of tape and I see it all around the league, so I'm not going to single out our guys, but we're going to coach our guys. Our guys are our concern, and getting them the very best that they can be. We'll chase that. I don't know if we can get it perfect, but we're going to try, or we're going to die trying. That is a classic John Harbaugh answer right there.
Well, also, like, it's true that other teams have communication issues, but that coach doesn't need to point that out. That
right?
was not, yeah.
That was my first reaction was, well, wait a second. If we're keeping everything in house, why does out of house matter?
Yeah.
Why are we cross comparing here?
Yeah, and by the way,
it's about us.
Exactly.
Why are we talking about them right there to begin that question?
And it may happen with other teams, but other teams aren't ranked number 32 in pass defense.
Yeah, that did not go over well online.
No, it did not. This one, okay, so John Harbaugh they had been asking him, like, what makes you think that, things can get better? And so he pointed out that the defense is actually ranked. I did not know this. The defense is ranked at about number 4 in tight coverage rates. That did not look to be the case in the film we just watched against the Browns. However, how many times have we been like, oh, Brandon Stevens is right there. He just needs to turn his head. Or Wiggins is right there. He just needs to turn his head. Like, how many times are like,
or even Eddie on that Njoku rep.
Right. So I do believe this stat. There's no way it was true against the Browns. Like, those guys were wide open. But he pointed out that they were number 4 in tight coverage rates, yet they are more like number 19 or 20 and allowing contested completions. So what he was basically saying, they're asking him what's giving you hope, and he's like, well, we're so close. Like, so often, I mean, we're number 4 in the league in having tight coverage. We just have to be able to finish. So then he gives his typical coach speak and encourages and says, yeah, we're right there. We're going to get better. I know we are. So that is an interesting stat. I mean, he's definitely fessing up to, like, we're not finishing.
Oh, yeah.
But, oof, got to get that done.
What were these rankings?
Oh, yeah. I wanted to show this while we were talking about Marcus Williams. I kind of forgot about it. Sorry. So on the left is the PFF grading rankings for all safeties across the league. There are 85. That was the full list, 85 safeties. Marcus Williams, his grade is ranked 76th right now. And look who's just behind him.
Oh, and look at where he is monetarily. Oh.
Eddie Jackson, 75. And then you go over to the right is a spot rack ranking of cap hits for safeties in 2024, and Marcus Williams is number 4. Yeah. You've got the 4th highest safety cap hit, and you're ranked 76th out of 85 safeties in gradings per PFF.
4th highest league wide at the position, 3rd highest team wide, and just in general. That's a lot of investment tied into a guy who came off a healthy scratch game.
He's got to get it together.
Yep.
Along with Zach Orr, obviously, but woof. Some more things on the defense per PFF. Cole Jackson pulled these together. This is how many yards each person in the secondary and linebackers, how often they were targeted and how much they gave up against the Browns. Eddie Jackson, top of the list. He was targeted 10 times, allowed 6 completions for 79 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pass breakup, and 2 dropped interceptions. Woof.
I think that could absolutely have been a 3rd too, dropped pick, but that's how they got that 3 number that you referenced earlier on. It was 2 for Eddie and then 1 for Kyle.
Correct. Jalen Armour-Davis targeted 7 times, gave up 6 catches, 76 yards, 1 touchdown. Brennan Stevens targeted 4 times, allowed 3 for 58 yards. Hamilton targeted 8 times, allowed 5 for 57 yards, and had 1 pass breakup and then 1 dropped interception. Yeah. Roquan targeted 4 times, caught it all 4 times. 37 yards. Arthur Millette targeted twice, caught twice, 20 yards. And Ardarius Washington targeted twice, allowed 1 catch for 7 yards.
Jameis was unafraid. Jameis was unafraid of this defense. Always. And that's part of the that's part of his downfall, right? But they were totally unafraid. And these numbers look, like you said, Roquan, you wonder how many times of those 4 times, which all led to completions, where he was at the point of the catch. Like when that ball reached the receiver's hands, the pass catcher's hands, where was he? You know, where was he on the field? How much space was between him and his defender and his assignment? Because that's what the Kurt Benkert, I felt like, breakdown really exposed more so than anything else was, wow, Roquan's not just out of alignment, but he's in recovery mode more often than not throughout that breakdown. A half step behind, if not more.
Yeah. It hasn't been good for him in coverage. So John Harbaugh was asked about Eric DaCosta pursuing a potential trade. They asked specifically about edge rusher, but also said or anywhere. Yeah. I chose for this slide to use the graphic of Jadeveon Clowney.
I think that's a wise choice.
I feel like it is. Harbaugh was not even hesitant when he was asked this. He said, yeah, I think we definitely will, because that's what Eric does. But then who was the person who gave us a super chat yesterday where he was like, I can't wait for the Ravens to say we tried and then it doesn't happen, but we love our guys. You don't even have to wait till after the deadline's over. He says, yeah, Eric's definitely pursuing stuff. He said, but I love our guys. I love our roster. I know we lost the game. It's disappointing. It's tough and we hate it, but that doesn't mean we don't love our players.
Ugh. There are a couple answers that were tough to swallow yesterday from him.
He's got to say that, though. He's got to say that.
I guess so.
You can't have players mad at you. You have to say that.
Yeah, you have to. Harbaugh also said that returners don't have a green light to return kicks out of the end zone. Brian Wacker noting this of the Baltimore Sun. It doesn't make sense when you're getting the ball at the 30 and players have lost sense of where they are on the field in kick and punt returns. He actually singled out Chris Collier, who caught a couple when he probably shouldn't have. He's the undrafted rookie. And of course, they're in a little bit of their rotation here is a little off kilter with Deontay Hardy going on to IR. So between Tylen and Chris, they're trying to find some cohesion there.
Something tells me that probably 95% of the time, nobody's going to be running out of the end zone for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
He was definitely not happy with that. And why should you? You get the ball at the 30. They weren't even coming close to that. It was never close.
The dynamic kickoff return experiment, so far a failure. Haven't seen a whole lot of fireworks as the league, I think, was probably hoping for. John Harbaugh, you kind of alluded to this earlier on, but he did confirm that Nate Wiggins was kept from traveling because of an illness. He said he's doing okay. We hope to see him at practice this week. Of course, we'll figure out more once tomorrow rolls around. The first of 3 practices begins. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff at the bank. Home game, Denver Broncos coming to town.
Then this is the bad news. He said it was too early in the week to know Michael Pierce's availability for Sunday. He has a calf injury. Well, let me answer this with this. Is he going to be ready for this Sunday? I don't know, because the Ravens just signed defensive tackle Josh Tupou to the practice squad. So they're banged up inside between Pierce and Urban. So they're bringing in reinforcements, that's for sure.
Yeah, he spent some time with them in the summer, if I recall correctly. So some familiarity with the building, and all of a sudden, that interior part of the defensive line could be a vulnerability moving forward. Last night, the Steelers took care of business over the Giants. Russell Wilson and company improved to 6-2 on the year. So sole possession through 8 weeks of first place in the AFC North. Baltimore's 5-3, Cincy's 3-5. The Browns, of course, improved to 2-6. Sarah, Mike Tomlin's looking pretty smart right now, pretty wise for making the decision. Here are the numbers so far. And Russ is averaging 417 yards per game.
Well, the offense under Russell Wilson is averaging. Yep.
Thank you. As a group, collectively, and over 31 points, over 6 yards per play. And Justin Fields, bigger sample size through Russ's. This is just 2 games so far for Russ, but for Justin, which was the previous, they've now played 8 games. This would have been 6, right? 6 games for Justin, 2 for Russ.
Yep.
298 yards per game as an offense under Justin Fields, over 20 points per game, and over 4 yards per play. So, again, different sample sizes, but Russ still looks like he's got some left in the tank, Sarah. And there was that one deep ball that he threw to George Pickens that was vintage Russell Wilson and showed some pretty great football IQ as well, changing a protection around right before he threw it. And, oh, man, was that a thing of beauty.
And that is why they made the switch. It's because of plays like you're pointing out, that he can throw the ball downfield. He can connect on those deep passes. And again, it just goes back to their formula. Like, they just keep it close. And then they make one big play on offense. And then the defense on the very next series, I don't know how it happens, almost gets a turnover like clockwork.
Yeah.
Bobby, watching that defense, it is crazy to me. That defense is so good. It's so old school Ravens and also old school Steelers. It's for sure a championship caliber defense. And what's funny is the Ravens had been the opposite, right? They've had this championship caliber offense, and they've been working to get the defense to get to close to their level.
Yeah.
Well, here they are with a championship caliber defense, and all of a sudden their offense is putting up 31 points per game. If the Steelers continue to put up 31 points per game, and I don't know that they will, like you said, it's a small sample size with 2 games. But if they're even close to 30 points per game with that defense,
look out.
Yeah, look out.
Look out. Don't write them off.
So on Get Up this morning, they did a fact or fiction segment that we should listen to, and I want to get your answer to the statement after they give, I think it's Jeff Saturday. It's Jeff Saturday who answers the question.
Win that division. Is that fact or fiction? Caution Zach makes it fact. Let's go fact. I like what they have going. Their defense knows how to close games out. You think about Hightower had 2 sacks. TJ Watt had 2 sacks. They understand how to win close games. They had 1 setback against Dallas, but otherwise, this is a tough out. They're running the ball better. Russell Wilson's pushing the ball down the field better. And when you look at them in Baltimore, I think Pittsburgh's defense is better right now. I'm not kidding when I say they should trade for Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
We know you're not kidding. So what do you think? Fact or fiction? The Steelers will win the AFC North.
Well, I'm not quite there yet. They've beat the Jets and the Giants. All right. So let's talk about strength of schedule before we do anything and crown these guys. And let's talk about the sample size like we just did. You know, it was 2 games for Russ. And he's looked like he's dusted off the cobwebs. He's given them a vertical passing threat, like you mentioned. He's gotten George Pickens involved. And the defense is championship caliber. But as you look at what's ahead, it's not going to get any easier for them.
Oh, it's getting way harder. And they knew this from the beginning. They knew that their schedule was going to be easy before their bye. So props to them. They're going to go into their bye 6-2.
Right.
But they're going to come out against the Commanders. One of the reasons this is the hardest remaining schedule of the entire AFC. Part of the reason is because they have the Ravens twice. Yeah. But they've got the Commanders, Ravens, Browns, Bengals. So, I mean, they have 4 division games in a row. So, actually 5 because they go Ravens, Browns, Bengals, Browns. 1, 2. No, that is 4. That is 4.
This is brutal.
They like it. They're going to do some beating up, and they're also going to get beat up. It's going to be physical football. Then they have Eagles who haven't been great, but they just tore apart the Bengals.
Yeah.
And they got Ravens again, Chiefs, and Bengals again. So that's why, Bobby, probably, I just saw this morning, Jameson Hensley put out the latest projections according to ESPN's Football Power Index. Ravens are still predicted to win the AFC North, even though they're 1 game behind. The Ravens' chances of winning the AFC North are 56.8, then the Steelers at 39.4, then the Bengals at 3.2, and then the Browns at 0.6. So, and I think it has to do partly with their schedule coming up. And as much as we've obviously ripped apart the defense this week, and deservingly so, I certainly am not one. I'm not like, I feel like the defense is going to get better. I feel like they are.
Yeah.
And I know people don't agree with this because I'm seeing it in the comments everywhere that they think that John Harbaugh doesn't adjust. And I think that's true in some instances, but I think for the most part, he's been able to galvanize his team when his back is up against the wall. And I think the defense, while they're not going to be the Steelers, I do think the defense is going to get better, certainly good enough to allow to put the offense in a position to win these games. So yeah, I'm not there yet. I'm not there to crown the Steelers at this point.
No, nor should you be. You're looking at the hardest remaining strength of schedule in the AFC, according to ESPN, and you're looking at their last 9 games being 5 in-division games, and then the ones that aren't in division, like you already mentioned, are the Commanders, the Eagles, and the Chiefs. So that's no joke there down the stretch. What was the other one? Yeah, Chiefs, Eagles, Commanders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Excuse me. 6 of the last 9 games are in division.
Ooh.
That is, yeah. So
the Ravens have faced just the Browns and Bengals so far, right?
Ravens have faced, yeah.
So they have both those guys one more time, and then the Steelers twice.
Yep. Okay. Yep. So, in terms of pressures allowed, as Cole Jackson compiled here on X by the Ravens offensive line on Sunday in Cleveland, Daniel Fa'alele had a tough afternoon. He allowed 6. Ronnie Stanley had a tough assignment with Myles Garrett often throughout the afternoon, had 5. Let up his first sack of the season as well. Roger Rosengarten had 4. McCary had 2, and Linderbaum had 1. The edges are no joke in Cleveland.
They were no joke, but Bobby, this as we're sitting here talking about Marcus Williams getting benched, right? Daniel Fa'alele has been serviceable against, average defensive lines. But it is not great. It is bad when he's against these better defensive lines. I've got a screen grab here where he's not even looking. I mean, he's not even like, look at all these guys fighting for their lives, and it's like, go find somebody to hit. Go find somebody to hit. And Bobby, there were so many times, I can't remember which one, but remember the 4 times Lamar Jackson was trying to throw a touchdown from around the 25, maybe the 30, to potentially hit the game-winning touchdown. Daniel Fa'alele is just getting burned. And Lamar Jackson keeps having to like roll out to his right to buy time and to try to throw it on the run. And it just is, I've given him his props when he's played well against some of these average offensive lines. But in the context of like Marcus Williams, Marcus Williams, yes, based off his play, I get why they made the move. It's just too bad that Eddie Jackson wasn't any better. I get why they benched him. But why are you willing to bench Marcus Williams, but you're not willing to bench Daniel Fa'alele? When I think that Ben Cleveland, when he's gotten the chance to start, has played better. So it just makes me nervous. It makes me nervous. I know he's like made us forget about him for a while, and all the players, got behind him when he started playing better. But obviously he wasn't against some of these big defensive linemen or the more elite ones. And again, Cleveland would have a hard time with elite defensive lines too. But I just don't understand. Like, you're willing to bench Marcus Williams for Eddie Jackson, but you're not willing to give Ben Cleveland a try.
Not sure what he's doing in that screenshot. Is he going to go after a linebacker? Because if so, that's not going to end well for him there.
He's not doing anything.
Yeah, he's just kind of space eating right there. But what about a David Ojabo? Jeff Zaribek was asked by a Twitter follower of his. I believe Cambria has interacted with us before, and maybe even been in our chat. Recognize her name. She asked Jeff, wasn't Ojabo a healthy scratch for Sunday's game as well? Do we know what's going on with him? And Jeff said they just feel like Yannick Ngakoue is a better option at this point, and they needed the roster spot yesterday to keep an extra defensive lineman healthy, with Jones, meaning Travis, not 100%, and Broderick Washington dealing with a knee injury. So one of the guys that ended up becoming one of the offseason stories of a potential breakout candidate ended up falling victim to a numbers game on Sunday, Sarah.
Here's some good news. Good old Lamar. Good old Lamar will always give us some good news. So the Ravens PR department put out some of his rankings entering week 9. Quarterback rating of 115.4, number 1 in the league. Touchdown to interception ratio is a plus 15, number 1 in the league. Total yards, 2,600, number 1 in the league. QB rush yards, 501, number 1 in the league. Pass TDs, 17, number 2 in the league. Yards per pass attempt, 8.9, second in the league. Rush yards per carry, 6.2, number 3 in the league. Wait, is that right? Is that number 3 among everybody? It's got to be number 1 among quarterbacks, right? It's got to be among everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Just making sure here. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Pass touchdown percentage, 7.2, 4th in the league, and then pass yards, 2,099, 5th in the league.
Yeah. Yeah. Needed it. Needed to see this coming off. Feels like a consolation prize coming off Sunday, though, right? Because of where they were functioning offensively.
Bobby, I wanted to have this discussion. Remember how a couple weeks ago I was saying it's kind of incredible that Lamar Jackson, after like a huge run, sometimes he'll have a couple in a row, or scrambling, like some of those scrambles, he's running around like 20 yards, right? And I'll see Lamar just full on sweating. And I'm just like, it's crazy, because if a running back or a wide receiver just had a big play, they get to go take a breather for a play or two, and then they come back on. We were talking about how that's got to be hard on Lamar when we were talking about one of his games. It was against the Chiefs, where like for the first half he had great technique, and then in the second half it wasn't as great. And I was wondering if it was because he was so winded with how much he was running. Well, so with that context, I'm sure many have heard Anthony Richardson of the Colts getting absolutely killed in the media this week, because on a big 3rd down against a division rival, on the 2nd down, he did a big scramble, was tackled, and I don't know what happened before that play. I didn't watch the whole thing. Maybe he had a couple of scrambles and runs and whatever. But he tapped out on third down. He asked to be taken out of the play, and everybody assumed that he was injured. And it comes out later, no, he wasn't injured. He was tired. And so I got the headline from the Indianapolis Star where they asked him, like, why'd you go out for that play? And by the way, he came back. Joe Flacco came in, he came back, and he played the rest of the game. But he said, I'm not going to lie, I was just tired. So he tapped out.
Yeah.
And so Pat McAfee, I mean, just cooked him on Twitter. He also cooked him on his show. You can
Which
see him
says something. He's a lifelong Colt.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of allegiance to the Colts, a lot of loyalty to the Colts. And so for him to use his platform to rip QB1 is pretty significant.
Yep. And so he's like, you're the franchise quarterback. Like, he accused him of quitting on the team. Brian Baldinger, he's like, WTF.
Yeah.
Like, you got tired, you got winded, so you tap out. He's like, this is not acceptable. Been in the business every day since 1982. I have never seen this before. I wanted to get your reaction. There's a part of me that's like, I don't know that quarterbacks have been playing. I mean, maybe I'm sure Lamar runs more, but there's a part of me that's like, before this even happened, I was astounded that Lamar never needed to like take a play off to go get a breather.
Yeah.
I just don't know. Is quit the right? Is that the right word? I'm sure I'm in the minority because everybody's blasting him. But
Well, I think it's being overblown a little bit.
Okay.
You know, I appreciate the brutal honesty that he gave.
Yeah.
But what message does that send your offensive line who can't take a play off? You know, what message is that? What message does that send your entire team? And I think right now, Joe Flacco gives them the best chance to win. Joe Flacco's not their future. Joe Flacco doesn't have as high of a ceiling as AR does. But I think Joe right now gives them the best chance to win as a team. And so I wonder if by the way, I saw a headline right before we came on that they are currently evaluating everything right now are the Colts with their quarterback position. So Joe could very well retake this job over Richardson. I don't know how much of it would be related to that specific. I mean, to me, the more important part is the full body of work, you know, and his ability to stay healthy. And those things have big question marks right now, aside from just one little comment in a post-game press conference.
All I learned from this whole thing, Bobby, is that Lamar Jackson is super fit.
Super fit. Yeah, there's that too, right? It gives you this newfound admiration or this reaffirmed admiration for how he does what he does on a play-by-play basis. Let's shout out a couple of our patrons, 100 Crystal Clear and Paul. Thank you both for believing in what we're building, supporting us through Patreon. This is your monthly shout out. We appreciate you guys being a part of the Vault Patreon community. And if you guys are interested in doing the same, visit patreon.com/RavensVault podcast to learn more about what we're offering here inside the channel this month. And it's a great time of year to hop on. You can do so for as little as $1.99. Well, tomorrow,
we'll
do what we do. You're right.
We got a lot of them, I think.
I was going to start to tease what's coming up the rest of the week.
My bad.
Starting to turn a page to Denver. But Gabe says AR is greater than Lamar as a running back. Wait. He was 4 of 17 passing at one point. Well, wouldn't it be the opposite? Lamar is greater than AR? AR is greater than Lamar as an RB. He was 4 of 17 passing at one point. I have no idea what that means.
Maybe he's saying because he was such a bad passer, people should be calling him a running back. Is that what he's saying?
Gabe, you got me tripping here. Devin says, Orr is just a chip off the old block, or should I say coaching tree for Dean Pease, or better start learning Chinese. Rave Kingdom says, oh, here we go. Bobby and Sarah, why continue to let, see, I'm catching on, Rave.
You got it.
Rave often hits us with hieroglyphics, and he likes to see me dance in live form here. Bobby and Sarah, why continue to let Zio make our defense a laughingstock? The longer we give Zio a chance, the less we have time to fix it. Also, Fa'alele sucks. Start Ben Cleveland. Ian says, Orr needs to simplify the chaos. Hopefully then we start trending in the right direction. Gabe says, Harb's specialty equals special teams. It's been falling off. Trouble? Special teams has been below standards the last 2 years, for sure. And there were 2 bad penalties that they took off on kick returns. One of which was a block in the back by Charlie Kohler. That was tough.
When did Jerry Rosberg leave?
20. I'd have to look.
I mean, he's not been here the last 2 years. I just didn't know.
The last several years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Deshaun says the scheme is bad, but Marcus Williams was bad last year as well. Also, you guys have a hard time reading super chats because YouTube auto predicts texts.
Mm-hmm.
Huh? Oh, YouTube. So autocorrect is not given in
No,
super chats?
he's saying that auto predict. It's just like on a phone. There's auto predict, and it'll often give the wrong word. You know what I mean? And you just keep typing.
Gotcha. Adam 78.
You're like,
said,
huh?
Adam says Baltimore has
I don't know
allowed.
about everybody else, but this is highly entertaining for me. What's funny is I don't know that I would do much better, so I can just sit here and laugh, but won't even give a try at it. Go ahead.
Should we change our formatting and go back and forth and read them?
We could.
Okay.
All right.
Adam says
you can laugh at me.
Baltimore has allowed the most 15-plus yard completions in the league and on track to give up over 4,000 total yards, which has never happened in franchise history. I'll let you take this one.
Okay, Gene. We all out blitzed 6 times in a row on the last drive. That was an easy one.
Mitchell says John Harbaugh can go. Too many blemishes. Look at the Chiefs playing bad, but find ways to win. Mahomes leads in interceptions, and they're undefeated. Yes, the defense is good, but teams are winning.
Yeah, because Chiefs finish no matter the offense or defense is the lead. Dreams. Thank you for your chat. It's sad to say, but this Ravens defense would make the Carolina Panthers offense look legit.
Ooh.
Well, they made Jameis look like a Hall of Famer, that's for sure.
Good thing we don't need to see that. They're not on the schedule. DM Hallman says demoting, getting rid of Orr is a pipe dream. Last I looked, besides the secondary coach with 7 years of experience, rest of the staff has 4 or less years. Orr is it. And that's the interesting part. This is not just an inexperienced play caller. This is an inexperienced staff defensively, which, of course, has been magnified.
It is a pipe dream. Somebody asked me, like, would you want Bill Belichick? And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
But Bill is not coming back to be the defensive coordinator for the Ravens. He's going to want a head coaching job. Evan says, I think super chats have bad grammar because people doing everything they can to fit thoughts into 150 characters or whatever the cheapest option is. Oh, is that it? You have to pay more to get a longer super chat in?
Live chat.
Learning things all the time.
Devin says Ben Johnson, if no Super Bowl. Think about it. I believe Ben is in Detroit, correct? I think he's in Detroit. And I'll let you get this one.
Gabe says, Sarah, you got me. Way to solve that symbol. AR equals RB. Boom.
Okay.
Again, I have kids that text in, like, the kids today. Oh, like even when my 7-year-old's writing stories for school, you just figure out a way to, you get it. You just over time, it's a skill you learn, Bobby. I'll send you some of Ella's writing, and then you can that way you can prep for the show.
I'll comb through the hieroglyphics. One final one here. Habitual line stepper says Joe has a ceiling AR could never reach. Marcus Williams will have to do for the rest of the season. EJ, Eddie Jackson, is just slow. I wanted to keep Denard Wilson. Hit on a couple different things that we were talking about. Appreciate you, Habitual.
You know what this has me wondering? Obviously, we reviewed
They're coming in again.
Oh yeah. We reviewed Spencer's tweet the other day about how bad all the former Ravens coaches that were here last year that are now defensive coordinators or a head coach.
Yeah.
They were bad last week, but I wonder how they are overall. Okay. Tennessee Titans are ranked number 1 in the league. Okay.
Tennessee is a disaster of a team right now, league-wide. Yeah.
Yes, but their defense is ranked number 1. So that's an argument of wishing to keep Denard, as he's saying right here.
Yeah. That's shocking.
Miami's Weaver?
Anthony Weaver's Miami.
Okay,
And
Miami's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th in the league right now. Okay, this is based on yards per game.
yeah,
Seattle Seahawks. Where are they? Oh, they're low down here.
they've given up some points.
They're like in the 20s. Is there anybody else I'm forgetting?
Nope.
Denard, Weaver. Okay.
So, I mean, those are the notable ones that would have been candidates, obviously, for DC.
Number 1 in Tennessee. Ooh.
Deshaun says, no, it's because the auto prediction is only on Super Chats. Super annoying. We're getting more context here into the constraints of Super Chat donations when it comes to text. And Rico from BMO says, hopefully that loss to Cleveland wakes up EDC. We are a week out today.
1 week from
the
today.
2024 NFL trade deadline. So,
oh, we just got one more big super chat. Orange.
Let you take it.
Vets help. Says Antonio here. Our offense has a very low margin for error. With the defense playing bad, I fear that if they don't keep generating plays and have strong outings every week, we won't win. We haven't seen cold games yet. It's true.
Appreciate it, Antonio.
Thank you.
And thanks to all of you, all 3,100 of you who are concurrently joining us right now. Please like the video. If you're in the Twitter sphere, consider coming on over to YouTube and hanging out with us. It's a great way to support us. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. We're going to start to turn a page to Denver. Press conferences, of course, will kick off, and the first day of practice is coming up on Wednesday. We just got another one as well. By the way, I have reached out to Brandon Stokely, who we've had on the show before. Former Super Bowl winning Raven, who was a part of the 2000 team as a wide receiver. Brandon is now and has been a local radio personality in the Denver area for a long time, and I have a good friendship with him. So hopefully, if he's not on the air, I think he actually just changed slots lineup-wise, so I got to make sure he's not on the air, but I would love to get him on. If not, I've got a couple other ideas as well from the Denver perspective. Ramrod13 says the Browns made several mistakes on offense and defense and failed to capitalize. Ravens did, even when in position. Wait a second.
He's saying they made a lot of mistakes on offense, but the Ravens defense failed to capitalize when in position. How is that an or issue? Again, we just went through all the schematic things. It's not one or the other. It's both.
Thanks, Ram. Appreciate it. Thank you, Sarah, for deciphering that one, huh? All right, people. Well, we appreciate you guys for being here. And as always.
Yeah, Cameron's saying to reach out to Shannon Sharp.
Oh, yeah.
I'm blocked by Mr. Sharp. Although, did you hear that they're changing the block rules on X?
Yeah, I did.
I wonder if I can see Shannon Sharp stuff now. Let's test this.
See if it's gone into effect.
So if for those that don't know, apparently if you're blocked, you can still see the person that blocked you. You can see their tweets, but you can't engage with it. So they're saying if you don't want somebody to see it, then you have to go private and then only allow people in that you want.
Gotcha.
Okay, Shannon Sharp.
I'm going to check.
No,
Chris
I still
Canty.
don't see anything yet. So they haven't made the change yet. But
gonna
they've
check
announced
Chris
the
Canty.
change is coming. Who blocked you?
Chris Canty.
Oh.
And then we'll leave after this. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, still can't see it. Now, how come you're not blurry when we have the same camera? How come mine goes super blurry when I come close, but yours didn't? Are we on different?
Oh,
it figured it
Yeah,
out.
Kicked in.
I just gotta let it. Okay.
Have a great rest of your Tuesdays, everybody.
What a lovely day.
It's gonna be a great day. Hopefully, you guys enjoy it. We'll be back in under 23 hours from right now, as always, for a Wednesday Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. And for Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett signing off. We appreciate you guys for being here, as always. And it's time to turn a page to Week 9 and the Ravens and Broncos, which is coming up on Sunday at the Bank. Thanks for being with us.